Hi guys, welcome to our bi-weekly property evening show. So my name is Wing Hon. So how are you guys getting? I mean, if you are watching this live now, just type in like hi on the comment box so that we know that you are actually watching this live now.
Hi, Rehan. How are you?
Hi. I'm very good. Yeah. How's everything over in Australia?
I'm okay. So this time around, we are doing greetings from Melbourne. Last week, the last time when we connected, I was in Adelaide, so we've made our way down to Melbourne already now. So the weather's pretty interesting. It's not hot, it's not cold, and it's actually quite pleasant.
What sort of Celsius or over there now?
It's currently 10 o'clock at night, and it's about 21 Celsius during the day. And then at night, it drops to about 15 to 18 Celsius. But yesterday, it was raining quite a bit, so it was quite cold, chilly. So I've been told that in Melbourne, it is four seasons in one day. And for those people who basically want to experience everything in a very short period of time, Melbourne could be the place that they should be looking at.
Yeah, so I mean, today's senior topic is something that I am really not familiar with at all. Landed and strata. So it's okay with our property seafood over here, Mr. Ernest. All of my questions and your question as well will get to answers. So hi Ernest. Do you want to like do a quick introduction about your background so that those people that do not really know you, they they, they can have a better understanding of
Sure.
what profession you do, in the background.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Wing Hon, the for getting me involved today. Now, for those who don't know me, I used to be actually in the media line for the last 10 years, working in um, real estate solutioning. So I was trying to basically help property developers and property agents find their buyers and also find their renters faster. So over the years, I've also started studying as to how property tycoons or people who actually build their wealth in property manage to do so. I also want to probably backtrack a little bit, whereby when I first started my career, I started my career off as a banker. And as my career as a banker necessitated me to deal with people of a different income level or different wealth level, I always took the opportunity to actually ask what made them wealthy, what made them grow their wealth. And I was almost always expecting them to say, I basically built a business, I listed my company, I inherited some shares, or I played the stock market and I did very well. But by and large, a lot of them actually said that they build their wealth through real estate. And how they build their wealth through real estate was actually the simple way, but it's pretty boring. It's basically buy and buy and buy and buy, and they don't sell until they really need to sell or when the price is really good. So they don't trade real estate like how they trade stocks. Stocks, when you buy a particular stock, it goes up 10%, they sell. If it goes up 15%, they sell. If it drops 10%, you cut loss. Property, you buy and you buy and you buy and you accumulate. And a lot of these real estate tycoons or people who grew their wealth through real estate have all indicated that they build their wealth through long-term holdings of a property. Now, I'm pretty sure, Wing Hon, you and I have had enough experience with our older relatives that when we go up when we talk to them about wealth and wealth generation, when we ask them, hey, that house that you live in, when you bought it, how much was it? That biggest house that you saw before, how much was it? And they'll tell you, oh, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, this was the price. And if you could go turn back time, I would have bought more houses. But at the end of the day, 30, 40 years ago, they also earn less. So it's basically about the discipline of saving money and the discipline of investing money and making money work for you. So that's basically where I started from. And then when I left the banking line and I joined a lot of other industries, the last ones were actually with the property advertising platforms. I got to see property building and property development firsthand. So I got to actually talk to the developers in terms of how they actually look at the location, how do they look at the land, how do they look at what they want to build on the land, and it's very interesting to see the philosophy as to how they actually go ahead and do that. And why that is important is because property by itself doesn't appreciate. It needs certain characteristics to appreciate. So when a property developer that's really serious about building a working township, building a working model where the prices will go up, and going up is because people want to stay there, people want to buy there, people want to live there. That is a very vibrant township. And when things become vibrant, the prices will go up. Rental prices go up, and then selling prices also go up. I'll give you an example. Wei Hon, are you familiar with any of the like the Taipan, USJ Taipan? Are you familiar with USJ Taipan?
Not really. I've been there only a couple of times, but not
Not really.
really,
Okay.
yeah.
USJ Taipan, one of the interesting things is that if you want to look for a parking space, it's very difficult to find parking space. And it's because, people always complain, wow, the people double park, triple park, the motorcycles are everywhere, it's difficult, it's congested. Now, obviously, during the COVID situation, maybe slightly different, but during the times when business was normal, it's a very difficult area to find parking. And if you go there at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, it's like, oh, very difficult to find parking already. The same thing as well with Puchong, the same thing with Cheras, the same thing with Kepong as well. Why is that? It means that these are the centers that attract business. These are the centers that attract people. And when you are able to have a very vibrant community, then people want to be closer, live closer, and therefore they don't have to spend so much time traveling. And that's when you see rental price goes up, and they also see the selling prices of properties also going up. So these are the things that the developers look for to actually have good developments that are accepted very well by the buyers and also by the people using the development as well. So that's just what I do, Wayman, and I'm actually very excited about helping people, especially Malaysians, get onto the property ladder because I personally have seen that wealth actually does come through when you actually are able to buy properties at a fair price and are disciplined enough to hold on until the appreciation happens, and then you either choose to offload it or you refinance it out. But the most important thing is to not get greedy. And getting greedy here means you basically use the properties as a trading mechanism where you buy and sell, and you basically take a lot of losses or you don't make enough because there's a lot of transaction costs for properties. The transaction cost for properties would include the SPA price, the broker fees. They may also include some titling work, some legal fees as well. So those are the things that actually add up in terms of cost that people don't necessarily see. So when you see a property for 500,000 ringgit, 500,000 is not the total price you pay. You'll be paying more because of all the legal transactions, legal documentation that's required, and also the financial transactions that need to happen as well.
So, hi Nick, can you hear me, Nick? I think it's okay because just now I was using my earphone. So, yeah, I mean, let's get into the topic for today: landed or strata. The very first thing, I mean, the very first question that I want to ask is like, what is the meaning of strata? Because landed, we know, right? Landed is landed, but what is strata actually?
Fantastic question, Johan. I just wanted to share the basic concepts first. Landed basically means the property that's actually on the land itself. So when you see a house that's on a piece of land, that's called a landed property itself. But there are some variations. Case in point, like Desapac City, you see the houses. I'm not talking about the condos. The houses that are in Desapac City, that's not landed. It's called a landed strata, and we're going to talk about strata in a moment. So there's a difference between landed strata, and strata. Okay, uh, so we've established what landed is. When you see a house that's on a piece of land, and you can say, okay, that's a landed property. Now the title of the property is slightly different. The title is what we're talking about. So what is landed? What is strata? We're talking about the titles. So when you talk about condo, a condo basically is a building that's very tall, multiple levels, and in each level there's actually different units. So you can have anywhere from 4, 8, 12 units per floor. What it is that when you talk about a building that's very tall, the plot of land that's at the bottom, that's the piece of land where the building sits on. So that is the title. But what happens is that because there are different floors and there are different people who live on the floors, what's going to happen is that everybody's going to get a strata title. So Wei Hon, let's put this in perspective. If you and I were staying in a house, two houses side by side, and it's a landed property, so in that title, you will have your name on the title as the owner, and my name on the title, the next one, as the owner. So these are called two different owners. Because that piece of land that your property sits on, that actually has a title that will have your name. Mine will also have the same thing as well. But if we have a condo, or if we own units within a condo, that piece of land is very small compared to the number of units that actually sits on that piece of land. So that piece of land is called a master title. And what you would get is the strata title. That means you lodge your interest for that land. So it's one piece that's shared with many, many people who owns the whole, all the units of the condos together. So let's put it in a very different perspective. So just say this condo has 100 units, and because you've made so much money, you bought 100 units. So that whole condo is yours, every unit. That title will still not be in your name. The title will be, and the building is, that's sitting on it, that is owned by 100 units, and each unit is owned by Weng Hon. And Weng Hon, through the ownership of the units, will own the title itself. But the title will actually have 100 owners. It's just that you have 100, your name is appearing 100 times. So that's the difference. So
it means like yeah, a strata is just like
a share.
a share. Okay.
So imagine the condo, right? Condo is tall. So if a condo is tall, you turn it sideways and it's on the land. Okay, tall, you put it sideways, it's on the land. So the units are actually on the land itself, but the whole title is actually strata landed. That's what Desapac City is. Because there are differences between strata and strata landed in terms of between strata and landed in terms of the responsibilities of the owners. Now, I give an example. If you live in a taman, which is probably built 20, 30 years ago, and in that taman 20, 30 years ago, what happens is that you actually bought a piece of land, or you bought a house that sits on a piece of land, and that's it. Now, just say for instance, there's a lot of crime that happens, or people actually say, hey, we should, as neighbors come together, each one contribute money to pay for guards, to pay for CCTV. There is nothing that actually says, I must join what you say. Because it is a landed title, I don't have to join in, I don't have to participate. So if, for instance, there are 100 neighbors, 20 neighbors want to increase the security, the other 80 neighbors don't want to, the only way that the 20 neighbors can do it is the 20 neighbors finance the whole project. You cannot compel or force the other 80 people to participate, even though it may be a good program. For a strata title or strata landed title, every owner, it has the responsibility to contribute towards the management of the property itself. So if you choose not to pay, you still have to pay. Because this is an obligation for stratified, because you own a share of that property. Okay, so in condos, they call it maintenance fee. They call it sinking fund. So it's the same thing. So whether it's a stratified condo or stratified landed, you still have maintenance fee. You still have sinking fund as well.
So I mean, how? Just let me bring up the next questions. So is there any what is the common property and limited common property? Is it relevant to strata? Because I just search online just now to prepare for some information, and then I saw this common property and limited common property. Is it related to strata?
Yes, it is very related to strata. What is a common property? So imagine again, let's give you this example. You and I are staying in a condo. So a lot of us may have experiences staying in condos or living or visiting someone in the condo. Where the car drives into the driveway, that is a common asset. Everybody owns that. When you get out into the lobby and walk to the lift, that's common area. That means everybody can use that. But when I get to the floor, just say you live on the unit number 21, floor number 18. So I take the lift, which is a common asset. That means everybody can use the lift, unless the lift, actually everybody can use the lift. And if it stops on your floor 2118, The walkway from that lift door to your main door is also called common. But the moment I go into unit 2118, that's your unit. That is no longer common. That's your private area. So when they talk about maintenance fees, they're talking about the maintenance fees for the common area, the upkeep of the cleaning, the upkeep of making sure that the security is there, the maintenance of making sure that the pipes are working, the swimming pool is working, the jacuzzi, the sauna, the badminton court that everybody in the condo shares, making sure that that is actually working well. So the maintenance of that is captured. But if you pay the maintenance fee, but you don't maintain your own unit, that means unit 2118, you don't take care of it, it's very dirty inside, it becomes very, it's not you're not able to live in it, that is not a common area issue. The cost to clean up that unit goes directly to the owner and not to the whole building. Okay.
Is there any price difference between a strata and also a landed house, a landed property?
Well, yes. The long and short of it is yes. Does it mean that strata is cheaper and landed is more expensive, or the other way around? Actually, it depends on the demand. Now, let's just look at one area that I'm a bit familiar with, which is Desapac City. Immediately outside Desapac City, you have Bandar Menjelara, you have Kapong, Taman Bukit Maluri, you have Bandar Sri Damansara. If you look in those areas I've talked about, there are also condos. So condo for condo price, I think Desapac City still has the highest per square foot. If you look at the price of landed property in Bandar Sri Damansara, Taman Bukit Maluri, against condo in Desapac City, I think the recent launch of the condo in Desapac City is about 1,000 per square foot. So it's even higher than the landed. Because again, it's actually the demand that people want to go and stay there. People believe that by buying that property over there, it becomes a better investment as opposed to buying landed that may be a bit less attractive to other potential renters or other potential buyers to pay a higher price than the price that you've paid. So I really cannot answer that landed will be more expensive than strata because the price and the value typically demands on the demand of the next buyer or the next renter. So if you have high demand, the prices go up. You have low demand, everything comes down.
Okay, so it means that the title strata or landed, it will not affect the price of the property. Instead, it's about the demands and the value, is it?
Yes, the whether strata or landed will not impact the price. You cannot say that because it's strata it should be cheaper. No, there's no. It should be. And if you look at condos in Hong Kong, condos in Hong Kong are significantly more expensive than landed here in Malaysia. It's demand. Yeah.
Okay, let me pull out another questions. So who actually manage, and maintains the strata property? Is there any like company that is in charge in managing this type of properties?
In the olden days, where there are no professional managers or very few professional managers, what will happen is that the people who buy the condos will elect someone or a committee amongst the owners to become committee bearers for the management of the strata title of the property itself. So what it is that just say for instance there are odd number of committee members because odd numbers makes it easy for voting. You have a majority compared to a hung committee whereby it's even. Just say if you got 4 people, 2 say yes, 2 say no, then what do you do? But if you have 5, 3 yes, 2 no, then you know what to do already. So for these committees, they are called the Residents Association Committees. And before it's sent over to the residents, you have a JMB, which is a joint management body where the developer will also participate in the committee itself so that the committee will be able to address any of the issues, to address the common areas and the upkeep of the property. So they will talk about security, landscaping. They will probably talk about guards, lighting. They may also talk about getting the community to come together. So they may actually look at how to create activities whereby the community can come together to get to know each other. Because security by itself, if you just have a lot of security features like CCTVs or electric fences, the best form of security is actually a neighbor who looks out for you and you look out for them. So by creating these activities, the neighbors, once they get to know each other, it becomes better. So you know that, hey, if my neighbor is Mr. X, and all of a sudden I see Madam Y come in. Who's Madam Y? I've never seen Madam Y before. Is Madam Y legitimate or not? So if I have Mr. X's phone number with me and I call Mr. X, hey, Mr. X, there's this lady here. Are you expecting anybody? And if Mr. X says, no, I'm not expecting anybody, then we should call the security. That is actually a better form than just putting a CCTV there. Then all Mr. X can do is watch the recording that Madam Y has gone into the house or done something to the house. So getting to know your neighbor is very important, whether it's strata or landed. So those are the differences.
So it pretty much means that a strata punya property, you have to pay extra services, and also yeah, I mean there's is that the thing?
Well, strata, there's something called the maintenance fund and also maintenance fee and the sinking fund. The sinking fund takes care of the painting of the building or the repairs work that's required, like say the lift breaks down or the lights in the common area breaks down. So the sinking fund actually helps to do that. The maintenance fees usually goes towards maintaining the property itself, paying for the security, paying for the cleaners, paying for the landscape artists to come in. So that's how the fees are actually broken down. So when you pay a maintenance fee when you live in a condo, that's where the money is going. And as an owner of the condo, you should get access to the annual to the reports as to what they are spending the money on, so that you can keep tabs on it. But if you live in a landed, not strata landed, if you live in a landed, and if your neighbor says, "Hey, Wing Hon, we want to get some people to patrol the security. Can you pay 300 ringgit a month?" You as the owner can say, "I'm not interested. Sorry, I got no money." And your neighbor cannot say, "You must pay," or else. The most that they can do is, well, you know what? If, for instance, we see somebody break into your house, we won't tell you lah because you didn't pay ma. But at the end of the day, that becomes very difficult to police. Why? Because if, for instance, someone does see something happening, and if you don't take action, then it could also happen to you, even though you are the one who paid for it, and the other fellow that's currently happening, the break-in, didn't pay for it. You still have to call because crime is still crime. So for us, what we are trying to say is that if you live in a stratified development, there are additional responsibilities. And these responsibilities usually come with slightly additional costs. And the costs that you pay actually is supposed to translate to increased value for the property itself, meaning that it has better security, it's taken care of better, it looks better, the maintenance is better. Because how many people do we see that live in houses, after so many years, the paint of the houses become very dull. It looks very old. And to repaint the house, the owner may say, "I don't want to pay. I don't want to repaint. Let it be like that." But stratified buildings, if they have a strong collection mechanism and everybody contributes, they will have enough money to do and maintain the property itself. And therefore, the value of the property also looks good. So similarly, Wing Hon, let's take a look, okay? If you have a choice to buy building A or building Y, building A is very well kept, even though it's 20 years old. Building Y, even though it's 5 years old, it looks really old because it's not taken care of well. Which would you feel comfortable in buying? You look at building A because you feel, hey, this one is maintained well. And that's where the value of the property is in terms of the rental and also of the increased value in terms of the sale.
Like for a first time buyer, should I be considering buying a strata or a landed property?
To answer this question, I think it's important to look at the first-time home buyer's budget. I personally have had friends who basically have enough money to pay the monthly installment. So they buy the property, they go for the maximum loan, and they can only afford to pay the monthly installment. But when they buy a strata, the monthly installment is not the only thing that they have to pay for. Forget electricity and water and IWK bill, because this one, whether you buy landed or strata, you still have to pay. And forget about cukai pintu and cukai tanah, because whether you buy landed or strata, you still have to pay. The difference is that when you buy a stratified property, the maintenance fee, which is usually calculated on a per square foot basis, can add up to quite a bit. So let me give you an example. So hang on, just say for instance you buy a 1,500 unit, 1,500 square foot unit. Okay, 1,500 is, they would probably say this is like 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom. So for 1,500 square foot, if the maintenance fee is 30 cents per month, 30 cents per square foot per month. So 30 cents times 1,500 is 450 per month. That means every month you pay an additional 450 on top of your monthly installment. Okay? So this 450 is whether you stay in that condo for that month or you go for a holiday to Singapore for 1 month. You still have to pay that 450. Okay? And if 1 month you don't pay, 2 months you don't pay, they may actually impose a penalty whereby they may charge you interest on the amount that you don't pay. And if you still don't pay, they can take you to court so that you pay up. So this becomes an important point whereby when you buy a strata product, you need to know and need to understand your responsibilities. It doesn't mean that I can pay my monthly installment, that's it, I don't have to pay anything else. You still are required to pay the maintenance fees.
How do you differentiate a strata and landed property? Is there any way to find out?
Typically, anything that is on a condo basis, you know that's basically strata already. Anything that's on a landed basis, one of the key telling points is whether is it gated and guarded. One of the things is that when you look at gated and guarded communities, people have a choice. Either they contribute or don't contribute. So if you go to some of the tamans whereby the taman a couple of years ago got no boom gate, there's no guards. Now all of a sudden there's a guard. That means this is basically a guarded community. This is not a gated and guarded community, because gated and guarded means it's a stratified development. Okay, everybody who stays there needs to contribute to the security, needs to contribute towards ensuring that the security is maintained. If it is just gated, it means the neighbors talk to everybody, say, okay, everybody needs to contribute because we all want to remain safe. We want to feel safe. So by having these guards, it actually helps to increase the value as well. So please contribute. And as long as a lot of the people who live there contribute, then the costs will be actually quite affordable. But just say, coming back to the same example, 20 people out of 100 decide to pay. The other 80 don't want to pay. Then the 20 people have to carry the whole cost. Because if not, then it's very difficult. How do you have a guard that say, okay, you only take care of these 20 houses, the other 80 houses you don't take care? Because if these 20 stay in one area, that makes sense. But if the taman is so big and 20 is only within, is spread all over, how is the guard going to guard? It's going to be difficult. So gated and guarded. Yeah.
Gated and guarded. The next thing I want to ask, so are there any restrictions on renovation works? If you want to, build something new or whatever. I mean, plant docks or whatever stuff. Is there any restrictions?
You raise a very, very good question, Weihan. Now, a lot of times, people who buy strata, they actually don't also realize that they are bound by the rules that the strata development has. And these rules can change. These rules can change depending on the committee. So just say, for instance, the committee says, okay, this strata title is on commercial property. The title is commercial, but we build homes that people can stay. So because it's commercial, you can do Airbnb. Okay, so a lot of the investors, they convert it into Airbnb and they want to stay there and rent. So they want to rent it out to make money out of it. But if enough people in the committee say, no, we don't want to have this Airbnb come in or short-term stay come in because we have a security issue. We don't know whether the people who come here have good intentions or bad. And if enough people in the committee say, yep, we don't want it in, immediately, as of a certain date, Airbnb and short-term stay can be illegal. And if any owner finds a unit that is used for this, can raise it up to the committee and action can be taken against the owner. So the committee can change the purpose of the usage of the development itself. And if it's a residential property, now let's give you a very similar example. We live in one taman, okay? And this
Mhm.
taman is single story or double story, old taman. I open a kindergarten next to you.
Mhm.
Most of the time, people are very accommodative. They keep quiet. But if the kindergarten becomes very rowdy, very noisy, if I open up a temple, or if I open up a place where people can come in and do consultation, feng shui or whatever, or business, whatever, I cook from the kitchen, I sell, but it's a residential title. That landed part makes it a little bit more gray in terms of when the authorities can come in. But if it's a strata-fied thing, you have to comply with the rules that have been set by the residents association. So it also means everybody must paint this color only. You cannot paint another color.
Mm.
Everybody, if you want to put the grill, no problem. These are the two designs you are allowed to do. You cannot put any other design. If you put any other design, the committee has the right to force you to take it out. They may also say, you cannot hang your clothes this way. You can only use a dryer because it will, by having a lot of people put a lot of the clothes, hanging the clothes out the window or out the balcony, from far people will think that, wow, this community here is a very it's a community that will not make make the property increase in value, may actually decrease in value. So they may be quite restrictive in terms of what they can do and what they cannot do.
So
But landed,
yeah.
but
So if
landed,
you yeah,
sorry, but
go ahead.
landed, but landed, if you want to put an awning, you want to change the color, your neighbor wants to do green, you want to do blue, up to you. That's your landed. Your neighbor wants to put uh, stainless steel gate and you want to use wooden gate, up to you. There is no compulsion.
Also, a lot of, I mean, there are actually quite a bit of limitations or restrictions on strata
Yeah,
title punya property. So if it is a lender strata, it will be the same as well, is it?
absolutely, absolutely the same. Landed strata is treated the same way as the strata.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you will have to pay extra, but there are limitation as well. But you will get the benefit of maybe a guard. Yeah, is it? I mean,
Yeah,
are the advantages of buying because when you say all of these restrictions, it seems like it is not a really good idea, to buy a strata punya property. Or is there any like good advantage, compared with you buy a landed property?
yeah. I think that buying a strata has certain advantages that a landed doesn't have. Now, let me give you an example. If I wanted to have a lifestyle that I want, I mean, definitely not during CMCO period. But if I wanted a lifestyle whereby 3 months I go for holiday, 2 months I come back to Malaysia, 3 months I go again, 1 month I come back. So by me not always being in my property, and if I live alone, then if I live in a landed, people will know that this house is not occupied consistently. So if anybody wants to have any criminal intent, they can identify my house rather easily because there's no security or very low security. But I live in a strata, access is usually limited because you need to have a pass to go in, you need to have a tag to tag onto your lift floor, go to your unit. So there's added security, and because access is a bit restricted, then for people with that kind of lifestyle, it's actually better to actually live in a stratified property where because there's actually elements of security built into it. Similarly, if someone wants to follow you home, and if you live in a landed property, I just follow you home, but in another car, and I will know where you stop. But if I go into a stratified property, it's the car park that I can only follow you to, but I don't know which unit you stay in. So at best, I only know roughly where you stay, but I don't know which unit you stay in.
So for security reason, it's definitely for, I mean, go for Strata. That is the biggest advantage, is it?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest advantages is security. The other one is basically about community as well, because stratified properties tend to create activities where people can mix together. Like, for instance, again, you and I live in a landed. We are neighbors. So I say, hey, wait, let's play badminton. Where to go? Let's go for basketball. Where do I go? A lot of the older tamans don't have these facilities, but most condos have facilities that are only for the residents. There may be swimming pools, there may be tennis court, basketball court, badminton court, squash court. There may be reading room, a business center. There may be even business services. Like, for instance, if you buy a lot of things from Lazada or Shopee, if you live in a landed and you're working out who is going to receive your products, does the person who delivered throw it into your house? But most of the stratified units will actually have a concierge service. That means someone, a guard or a concierge person to receive those products. So when you come back from work or you come back from your appointment, it's like you can just go to the office and pick it up from there. So those are the different benefits that a stratified property may have. And I know that a lot of the new ones will have. But for landed, you won't have that unless you actually have a facility. That means the neighbors all have to say yes. If anything comes, this is the appointed person that can collect. If not, you have to make your own arrangements.
Since there are I mean, a few restriction using, I mean, buying a Strata property. So what are my rights as a Strata property owner then?
Well, your rights is the first of all, you have to look at what is inside your residence agreement. So those are your rights. By and large, they're all almost the same. Meaning that you have a right to complain. Who do you complain to? If you're not happy, what do you do? If you're still not happy, then what can you do? But most of it will still anchor to the same part, whereby your maintenance fee you must pay. If you don't pay, this is a penalty. And if the penalty hits to a certain amount, they can take legal action against you. Those are the main differences there between landed and strata.
I think my question is pretty much this. So if, for example, I want to buy a house lah, so what sort of things that I should be taking into considerations when choosing between a strata and also a landed house?
I think that it is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important for you to determine what is the purpose of the house that you're buying. If the purpose of the house that you're buying is to look at for you to stay, and instead of for you to do investment in, I think then one of the things that you may want to evaluate is whether the security feature is sufficient enough or not. And it doesn't mean that just because it's landed security is bad. It doesn't mean that. It just means that at the end of the day, you have to probably pay more money to make sure that your unit has the security features. You may have to put your CCTV, you may have to put high fencing, you may have to do a few things on your own. Stratified means that the common areas will be secured. That means everybody pays for that. The CCTV will be there, the guards may be patrolling. But the other thing is this, what we've seen so far is that capital appreciation and rental yield seems to be highest for products that actually have gated and guarded facilities. So gated and guarded facilities are usually stratified. Okay, so these are the things that seem to have a preservation of value. The rental yield is firm, and also the capital appreciation is firm. But does that mean that all condos surely increase in price? All condos will surely be higher in terms of rental compared to landed? Not necessarily the case. You have to look at supply and demand. If there are too many units of the same type, too many similar features, and things are not so different between each other, then chances are a bit more difficult to rent out or to find a buyer compared to something that is limited or something that everybody seems to know and want. Again, I come back to the example of Desapac City and the developments around the area. Okay.
So do you know like approximately how much different is the value between a landed and also a strata title property? Do you have any
Uh,
idea?
well, I can give you one example. Um, a double-story landed in Taman Bukit Maluri. Okay, this is an old community. I think about 30 plus years old. Double-story landed, built 30 years ago. Original price probably about 120,000, 130,000. The last time I checked, which was late last year, it was around about 700 to 800,000 ringgit. A double-story strata in Desapac City, probably around about 12 years old. Probably started selling at about 680,000. It's now probably about 1.8, 1.9 million.
Mhm.
And it's basically about demand and supply.
Mhm.
People who say that, I want to live in Desapac City is a different community compared to I want to live in Kapong. Not to say
Mhm.
that Kapong people are bad or good or doesn't. It's just that they aspire to stay in a different address. So therefore, because the limitation of units in that address makes the price goes up.
Mhm. So it still have to depends on the demands, when it talks about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, is it worth to buy a second-hand strata house for investment?
Again, demand and supply, Wei.
Mhm.
If, for instance, you buy and you have to pay a high amount, but you can get your rental yield and the rental yield is able to cover back your installment, I would say yes. And if the rental yield can cover back your installment, plus give you a bit more profit, I definitely will say yes. Because if the rental yield and your installment amounts are roughly the same, it just means that at the end of the day, there will be capital appreciation for your product. Why? Because someone is willing to pay your monthly installment, and you're having almost a free ride to tahan for maybe 3, 4, 5 years and wait for the property prices to go up. And if the demand still is there, people want to stay in that location, and you tell them, hey, I'm wanting to sell, I think they may be interested in buying. But if you have a product that nobody wants to rent, and now you want to sell, there won't be any buyer unless it's very, very cheap. That's my logic.
All right. So, hey guys, do you have any question? If you have any question, just kindly post it on the comment box. To ask Ernest. If you are a new home buyer and you are not too sure what is strata or what is a lender, or what sort of houses, that are suitable for you to buy now. You can ask us now. All right. So, yeah, just ask us any questions, if you have any doubt on buying houses, and Ernest will definitely help you up on your question or on your doubt as well. All right.
I actually have a question for you, Ekon.
Yeah, go ahead.
My question for you is this: based on the lifestyle that you have, do you yourself have a preference for strata or landed?
To be very honest, I do not have any preferences. I mean, just like what you say, I mean, for me now, I will be preferred to buy a property for investment. Yeah. So I mean, as you say, it's about the value of the house, so it does not really matter is it like a strata or landed property. Yeah. I mean, of course, after I understand the meaning of strata and landed from you lah. So I don't really have any preferences lah in buying, strata or landed, but I do aware that I have to be aware as well with all the restrictions, so I will take that into consideration as well. But if I want to rent it out, then I don't think strata or landed will make a difference. And of course, I have to inform those home owner as well. I mean those people that rent houses from me, so that they don't do any like renovation without my permissions or stuff like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that I mean they have to be aware. So because I'm pretty sure that not everyone know what is strata and those kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, as you say, law, the value lah. In a investor perspective, money lah. That is the thing. If people ask me lah, yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
What
And
what about yourself? Yeah. Do you have any? Yeah.
from what I've seen so far, basically from what I've gathered from friends and also colleagues who have actually done the investments, um, it is not so much in terms of whether it is strata or landed that gives the best yield. Uh, you There is no hard and fast rule that says just because you buy landed, the price goes up for sure 100% and for sure faster than strata. It doesn't mean that. And similarly, for those who buy strata, it doesn't mean that you surely will lose. It will not be as good as landed. It doesn't mean that as well. It all boils down to your ability to yan, to tahan, meaning that if there's no tenant, you still can sustain. And if you have the ability to sustain the carrying costs and the maintenance fees, then you have the opportunity to earn the money back when the property price goes up. I do believe that over time, and I talk about time as not 1 month, 2 months, so it may take up to 5, 10 years. Over time, the property prices should go up. There are very few that I can think of that the property prices have gone down and not recovered. Very few. But most that I know of go up. So it's just a question of time. How much time do you have? If you have a time horizon, give you an example. So, just say, for instance, you are a father of a 1-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You know that your 1-year-old in 17 years, 17 plus 1 is 18, is going to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So your time horizon for your investment to become of value, because if you want to look at the investment to finance the education of your child, you got 17 years to look at it. If your child is 15, you buy now, and 17 they're going to college, or it's 18 they're going to college. You only got a 3-year time horizon. You don't have much time. So usually when you want to look at property, you got to look at a slightly longer time horizon. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And if you have multiple children, you may have multiple properties as well. And even if you don't have children, so just say, for instance, Wei you're 30 years old right now. You want to retire when you're 50. You got a 20-year time horizon. So what are you doing right now to look at that time horizon?
Oh, this is a very, very good it's a very good, how we say, it's a very good concept. So the house is pretty much like a saving for us for whatever that we want to do, like 10, 20 years down the road. So if I want to earn, like, maybe if I want to retire with 1 million ringgit, so I have like maybe 20 years, then I appreciate that the house, after 20 years, if I buy at Desapac, then it should reach about one plus or 2 million at that time. So when I sell it off, then I will have that money for me to retire. So
Yeah,
it is part of financial planning as well, right?
it is. It definitely is like financial planning as well. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a very,
And
very good things to keep in mind. Yeah, I think I should buy a house. If not, later, walan, yeah. So I mean, if I want to retire at 60, so if I buy now, I'm 33, so I have like 27 years to go, right?
yep, yep,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So Wei
So
I'm going to ask you another
yeah, go
question.
ahead. Go ahead.
You come from a town that is, you don't come from KL. I know that
Yeah,
you.
Imran.
Yeah. So you remember the house that you stayed in?
Yes, yes.
How old is that house?
Wow, the house I think is about 17 years,
When the house was first for sale, how much was the house?
120.
How much is the house now?
Wow, I don't know. I'm not sure, but because I think the place that I stay, because I'm staying single story house, and I don't know the place that I stay. The last I heard, the increase of value of the property is quite slow, but I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know
So
how to
just
work.
just say you don't buy in the areas where it's slow.
Mhm,
Say 17 years is fairly safe to say that it goes up at least 100%.
mhm,
So
mhm,
just say your price is 170,
mhm,
100% is 340, right?
mhm, mhm.
340 minus 170 is 170 profit. If you
Without
just look
that.
at cost only, 340 minus 170 is 170 profit lah, cost to cost lah.
Mhm.
170,000 profit over 17 years means for every year you stay there, the market give you 10,000 extra.
It's
Not
about
you pay rent,
900 ringgit every month. Give me.
Yeah, the market pay you to stay in your house.
So when I sell a house, is there any like tax? Is there any extra cost that I need to pay? Fees?
Well, there are fees and there is tax. There is the RPGT, the Realty Gains Tax, that has been imposed by the government, whereby any property that you own above, depending on the number of years, you get taxed with a different rate. So the lowest rate is 5%. So any property that you hold for more than 6 years, 5%. So if you sell for 100,000, 5% is the tax. So 100,000 minus, you sell for 100,000, you have to pay 5%, but your tax is based on your profit. So you must have bought the property, say 50,000. 100 minus 50 is 50. 5% of 50 is the tax. So you must have an ending price and a beginning price. Then only you can calculate the profit. And the tax is only on the profit. That's
so
the
it's not
tax. Not the whole amount. The fees that you pay will be, if you use a real estate negotiator, it's a real estate negotiator fee. The stamp duty fee. Those are the things that you need to pay. Those are fees. Yeah.
But actually, it's quite good. I mean, how we use property for saving instead of putting inside to the bank, so we invest in a property to save the money.
Well, one of the things, Winkon, I really enjoy talking to people about property about is this. I want to also say, Winkon, if you have 100,000 ringgit, don't put all the 100,000 into one property. I'll tell you why. Don't put 100%. The reason why is because when you need cash, the property cannot give you cash immediately. Meaning that the only way to get cash is if you sell it. But if you need to sell it very fast, you need to drop the price. Right? So you should have some liquid cash or some access to cash aside from property. So wealth planning, financial planning, very important.
Okay, so about how many percent should we spend on property from our income?
Well, there's no hard and fast rule. There is no one size fit all. It depends on your risk appetite. But something that I learned from a good friend of mine in the past is the amount of assets that you have in fixed asset and liquid. So I call fixed and liquid. Fixed means it's very difficult to change to cash very fast. Liquid means can change to cash very fast. What would they be? Cash, stocks and shares, maybe even gold. Those are the things that give a bit more liquid. The more illiquid ones would be property itself. You got a car. You just say you got a McLaren F1. 2 million ringgit. You want to sell, you need 500,000. You can't sell that car. Nobody's going to buy unless you sell for 500,000, which means you take a big loss. So those are the issues. So because you're 33 years old, I think that 33% of your assets should be in liquid cash. Liquid cash. So 67% should be in long-term asset. Then
So
as you get,
for example, if I'm earning like 10,000 a month, so I can use around 7K to put into a property, and then 3K I keep for whatever.
That's one thing that one of my mentors told me before, based on your age. Because as you get older, when you're 60, 70, 80 years old, you don't want to be holding asset. You want to hold cash.
Enjoy our life, eh?
Yes, correct. So when you're 70 years old, 70% is in cash, 30% is in asset. So it's the reverse. So 33, now you're 33, it's 33 in cash, 67 in asset.
This is a very good. I learned a lot of things today. Very good, very good. So and that. So if for example, if I have 7,000, that I can use to buy property, for example. So should I use 7K to buy one or to buy two? I think 7K is about two. I think it's pretty maximum.
Well,
I don't know.
if you can afford a 7K monthly installment per month, so you're looking, the house would probably be about 1.4. So you can choose a 1.4 house, or you
Mhm,
can choose a combination that leads up to 1.4. So it can be 300,000, that's 900,000,
mhm.
and 500,000.
100,000. Oh, okay. 9, then 5. Okay. Understand.
Yeah. But to get the loan approved, then those are also things that the banks will look at, because the banks also are very concerned that if you take multiple loans,
Mm,
okay, but if you take one property at 1.4, I don't think there's an issue if you have 7 a month,
mhm,
okay,
mhm.
because the
Uh,
banks currently have a policy whereby the first two properties at 90%, the
mhm.
third and a property and above, there are limitations depending on your ability to repay. You
So
may
the
not be 90%.
first is 90.
The first two are 90%.
The first two are 90%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you buy a 1 million ringgit house,
Mm-hmm.
90% loan means 900,000 in loan,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to pay the 100,000 as booking fee and the SPA fee. And usually, what most developers will do is that the first 5%, 6% is a rebate, and then they give you some signing bonus. You only probably have to pay 3% of the 1 million, so that you only pay 30,000,
Oh.
and then sign the SPA, and the property is yours.
So we have finally we got a question here. Hi Mama Rivan, how are you? So it's good to buy a property near to public transportation now, like MRT or LRT. So many offer right now. Yes, there are a lot of deal outside of our property. Sometimes when I look at news, look at Facebook ads, those properties keep coming up. So it is to be honest, it is very, very competitive because you do not want to buy the wrong one. If you buy the wrong one, it's a very gung one because it's not cheap things, it's a few 100,000 better things. So yeah, I mean, how do you differentiate, or do you offer this type of like consultations, or you yourself have any projects that you can recommend, to us?
Well, I work with a few people who actually have access to projects, but most importantly, before we even go down to the path of the projects, is the buyer needs to experience and to understand what they're buying. So it's not just because it's cheap they buy, because cheap, you need to have value. The reason why you take out your money from your wallet to buy something is because what you're paying for is worth more than the money in itself. So give you an example, Wing Hon. I ask you to give me 100 ringgit for this pen. So I got a pen. I say, Wing Hon is 100 ringgit. But to you, I don't need a pen. 100 ringgit is too expensive. So what's the point? And if I want to buy a pen, I can also buy one for 50 cents. Why do I need to buy 100 ringgit? But if I say, hey, this pen, a famous person owned it, this is antique and it comes with certification. Now all of a sudden, wow, the 100 ringgit maybe value, because wow, this is my mentor, this is my idol, and they own the pen. So it depends on the value. So if you're looking at MRT or LRT, you have to imagine, if you're buying it for investment, who is going to stay there? Who is this person that's going to be able to rent it? If the price is very high, can this person or can this company afford to pay you the rent for the 2 years, 2+1 or 1+1 year? Can they afford to pay you the rent? And if you buy an asset that nobody can pay you the rent for, then you have to pay the installment yourself. If you can pay the installment yourself, no problem. But if you cannot pay the installment, then what happens? If you decide to stay there, then you have to look at whether that location, whether it's MRT, LRT, KTM, Grab driver, bicycle lane, you have to know why you want to stay there and whether staying there makes sense to you or not. I give you another example. Some people say that they love to stay where there's a lot of greenery. They love to stay where the air is fresh. So just give you an example. They choose Rawang or near Templars Park. Yes, it's near greenery. Yes, it's near nature. But if you work in Puchong and you want to stay in Templars Park, every day you are willing to travel 2 hours? Whether it's MRT, LRT, KTM, bicycle lane, are you willing to do that? And if you're not willing to, and 2 hours to go, 2 hours to come back, it's a lot of time, right? But
crazy.
if you have the money and you tell yourself whether I rent it, I don't rent it out, I can sustain. That means even though empty, there's nobody staying there, I'm willing to sustain the loan because I can afford it. And when I retire, I want to stay there. Because when I retire, I don't care what time people go to work because I'm not working anymore. So got jam, no jam doesn't matter to me. Then it's a different thing altogether. The question then now is how do you maintain that property for the next, if you're 33, retiring at 60, you got 27 years of waiting before you can stay in that property. So is that something that you want to do? Right?
So have to think of the purpose.
Yes, you
What you
must have
want.
the purpose. And wait on, I give you another example. Just say you find this ideal property in Tempest Park, you want to stay there, you're willing to pay. You say, never mind, I want to retire there. 2 weeks from now, you find a very interesting person that you want to get married to, and she lives in Taiwan. And she say, you must follow me back to Taiwan. Then this property in Rawang, do what? So people have a lot of these plans. I buy here because, wow, I want to retire. I want to retire. But they may not retire in the same country, let alone the same state. Things change. So you need to really understand your purpose.
There's another question here. Hi, any disadvantages to purchase Bumi release developer unit?
No disadvantage. It's just that Bumi release developer units are the units that the developers actually have applied to sell to non-Bumis. It's the same as buying a non-Bumi unit. Same. No, there's no disadvantage. In fact, when you buy a Bumi unit, it's also not disadvantageous. Bumis can buy Bumi units and enjoy the benefit of a discount. And if they decide to stay there, that's great. If they decide to rent, and the unit and the development is very popular, they actually get a better yield, a better return because their cost is lower. But if they buy if they buy a leasehold and they want to sell the leasehold to open market, that may be a challenge because a Bumi unit to transfer to a non-Bumi may have a little bit more complications.
Mm-hmm. All right, Vunya, no worries at all, Rivan, no problem. So, yeah, I think pretty much that's it for our live tonight. So, yeah, if you have any question, you can just type on the comment box, and then after this live, we will still be answering your questions as well. All right. So, thank you, Ernest, and thank you all of you guys for your support, and remember to subscribe to our channel. All right. So, I will see you guys after 2 more weeks. Yeah. Ernest, anything else before we going off?
There's a lot of opportunities right now. There's a lot of people. I myself, even though I'm not in Malaysia, I'm getting a lot of messages on the property deals and what's available. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to share one last piece of advice before we end for this session. Before you do anything with your hard-earned money, make sure you know what you're buying. Make sure you know why you're buying what you're buying. Just because someone says it's cheap, just because someone says sure can make money one, you need to do your own research. Yeah, and if you don't have access to do the research, speak to your trusted friends, speak to trusted consultants or other area experts that give you that insights that will help you make a better decision. And I think Wing Kon's channel will help you make better financial decisions.
All right. Thanks, and see you guys another 2 more weeks. Ciao.